In yesterday's upload, I alluded to a council slate that was ongoing where Terrakion and some other Pokemon were getting voted on. That council slate is now concluded with the help of some rotating members, shoutouts Phantomistics, Dugza, and Lucario. And we have some new bans in the tier, and something that, you watch yesterday's video, you already know wasn't getting banned. One mod that'll remain in you at least for another few days until our next slate. Of course, you enjoy this type of content where we go into the NU metagame and talk about why Pokemon got banned, and just, explore the tier in a way other than battling. Hit that little subscribe button down below. Hit that like too while you're down there. You can do both. Helps the channel out a ton. As of I'm recording this, we are 1 subscriber away from 6,000, so if we've still not hit that by the time this is recorded, help me out. You could be number 6,000, and even if we've already hit it, you can help us get closer to 10,000. See, it's a win-win. It's a win-win. Now, of course, as always, I'm going to start with what didn't get banned, because that's got the least support for a ban, and so I think it's probably the easiest thing to talk about. And with this slate, conveniently, Terrakion, we just talked about. So I'm not going to take a whole lot of time going over this. You can just watch yesterday's upload. The TLDR is this. Terrakion has a lot of Pokemon that are super common in the tier right now that wall it. They're not maybe not wall it, but give it some issue offensively. Palossand being, of course, like on every team right now because it's just so good. And again, with Palossand, I think something that's important to keep in mind too. It's not just good because of Terrakion and nothing else. It's just a really good physical wall. It has sustain. You can have your ground type Scald if you want with Scorching Sands. You've got techs with like Chilling Water to disrupt some of those really fat setup sweepers, such as like Scrafty and Snorlax. Overall, just a very, very strong mon. And that being on every team causes Terrakion to have a lot of issues, because you you always have to Terrafly if you don't want to lose to that. And even if you do Terrafly, you might just be trading with it, and unless you've got another mon on your team where it's like, oh yes, the Terrakion is here to support this mon that wants Palossand gone, then okay, you might have just lost your Terrakion for just about no reason other than, hey, I mean, you got rid of one mon, right? And so that puts a huge limiter on a lot of Terrak's other sets too, like Scarf, like Band, and especially when you start looking at these other sets, you start having increased counterplay. Sub SD Terrafly is an incredible set, probably its best set. But these other sets that are still good definitely have issues with mons like, again, Palossand, Gligar, Mudsdale, Vileplume. A ton of mons, very bulky, resist at least one of the stabs, and can pivot in and, take advantage of Terrak being forced out. As my music just, you were not supposed to do that. But, as we continue to talk about this, it's just very hard for Terrakion, I think, game to game, to just freely click CC like you would think it'd be doing. You know, slap the CC, be on, spam the CC. It doesn't play out like that. And even if you look at offensive counterplay, we have such a large amount of Scarfers that it's not like every team I'm saying, okay, I have to run Inteleon here to beat Terrakion. No. I could run a Scarf Chandelure, I could run a Scarf Flamigo, I could run a Scarf Heracross if I really wanted to use that mon still. I could run my own Scarf Terrakion, I guess, if I want to. I could run a Scarf Rotomo, I could run a Hisuian Electrode. And we can even just look at a tier here. I could run Espeon with like Psychic Terrain, that's an option. I could run like a Scarf Hoopla. I could run Terra Blast on Salazzle with like water or ground or grass. Anything that hits Terrak super effectively. Got some options. So, will it stay unbanned? I don't know, because as Eternally writes right here, we want to look at this metagame without Rain, Cloyster, and then like Snow Ring around, because we think those might be constraining, or might have been constraining, some of the really, really scary wall breakers we got, of which Terrakion qualifies for that description. But with these gone now, does Terrakion finally like just come into the limelight and dominate every team with offense maybe, toned down a bit? We'll see. Anyhow, next up, I'll talk about Satitan and Dreadnaw, because these two were mons it's like, in my heart of hearts, I wanted to vote ban on them because they seemed OP. And I did end up voting it on Satitan because when I was trying to use Satitan, I felt like the teams I was running into were really unlucky. Like, I was running into a ton of Encore on just random Pokemon that, yeah, they could run Encore, but it's just very unlikely. And it kind of skewed my understanding of how good Satitan could be. Because, yeah, if you run into things that are generally kind of C-teaming you, it's always going to make it harder. Imagine doing a test game with your friend, and you want to use, I'll just give an example, Gudra, and your opponent decides, hey, I'm going to have mono fairy plus steel. You might not think Gudra's very good, and while that's an extreme example, of course, it's kind of the issue I was running into with Satitan, where I was running into some of these like really niche checks to it, like Defensive Arcanine, a lot of Aquaporos, which isn't niche, but I was running into that a lot. Running into a lot of Encore, like we said, so actually finding turns to set up was pretty hard, because a lot of these more passive mons that maybe you'd want to set up on, you know, I was forced to just attack instead. And at Unboosted Satitan, I'm here to tell you, unfortunately, is not very strong. So that kind of sucked. And in the few games where I felt like I wasn't facing a specifically like, oh yes, this guy's got things that are to stop every setup sweeper imaginable. So, you know, again, just looking at like a lot of Encore mons that can contain basically anything you might run into. No Ditto, stuff like that. When teams didn't have such broad general counterplay to Satitan, it did feel like the mon was a little bit too easy to just force through almost their entire team with. Now, I'll fully admit, I tried this mon outside of Snow because these were games I got with Snow, so I didn't have to worry about having Ice Shard or something for priority. I just outsped everything and I just one-shot it after a drum. That made the mon feel very, very funny. Like, very, very easily broken. But I took it outside of Snow. It felt really kind of bad. Especially because if you want to have Taunt on a lead, you have really one option as Lycanroc. Otherwise, teams can just always get their hazard up versus you, like Stealth Rock, T-Spike, whatever. And Satitan as a sweeper kind of sucks once it's forced to take all that shit, because it's not like NU lacks priority. We have a ton of that in the tier. So it becomes very easy to take Satitan down when you're not functioning with, oh, I got 75% HP after, you know, I drum and get my citrus. No, you're down at like 50, probably lower because you're going to be taking a hit as you set up. And if you're running it outside of, you know, Snow offense, you don't have Veil support from Abomasnow, which also, again, less easy to set up. You take away all of those factors, Titan ends up feeling very, very underwhelming. And so I think having this just truly disgustingly bad experience using it, I was like, okay, I don't know if I could vote ban. But then I'm like, okay, well, let's look at the counterplay in the tier. What all is actually answering Satitan? You got, like, Defensive Arcanine, okay. Not a very common set, but it could exist. There's some use for it outside of Satitan. Avalugg, I guess. If I Terra immediate, I don't think you have to really Terra for Satitan. You just have Sturdy and then you body press. If they don't Terra in response, body press smokes them. Okay. And then we go down the list, and you know, it's not too good. Because especially if you're under Snow, Satitan gets to run 3 coverage moves. You know, well, 2. Ice Spitter, and then like Earthquake, Liquidation, Play Rough. You have all these options, and they all answer different checks. So like something like the Ansi, okay, I have Earthquake, and if I'm Terra Ground, I just beat you down no matter what your Terra is. Same with Duraludon, like I'm gonna Earthquake you. Even if you Terra, I probably still one-shot you. And if I don't, well, I have a Veil, potentially. So, do you take me down? Okay. Gligar, okay, maybe it Terra Waters, and that's kind of annoying. The thing is, Gligar's not really going to have a lot that it does back. The most you're really worried about is Toxic. Because if you're under Snow, you either, 1, just have the Snow boost from being an Ice type, 2, have a Veil boost, or 3, have both. So Gligar Toxics you, and it's like, okay, well, I'm not going to beat your whole team down now, but I'm still going to do a ton of damage to everything because I'm at +6. And your Gligar's just not really going to do anything back. It's going to have to switch because, okay, I'm about to do 100+ to you with Play Rough. What did you got for me, buddy? So then you got like Grafaiai with Encore. This monster's not very common right now. And something I probably should have been doing versus the Grafaiai, just Earthquake them. Just don't let them even cheese you. Hitmontop, this mod again, it kind of comes into an offensive counterplay where there's a lot of priority that can limit you. So, I mean, there's that. That's a real check. Klefki, if you're not Terra Ground, will T-Wave you, but otherwise is getting smoked. Something like Mudsdale could Terra as well. And maybe that's an issue. Same with like Palisand. It could Terra and maybe tank an attack. Maybe it gets like a Scorching Sands burn. Maybe. Quillfish again, he's just dead after Satitan Earthquake. So that doesn't really do anything for you. Glowbro, same deal, except you don't even tank a hit of a Terra. You just die through it. You got the Poroses here. Both those vulnerable to coverage from Satitan and intimidating it. I'm here to tell you guys, Satitan at +5, just as scary as Satitan at +6. Thunderous, again, just the issue of Terra Ground will negate Thunder Wave stuff. You're seeing the thing is, right? You look at all the forms of counterplay, there's not really defensive stuff that stops Satitan. It boosts up, and with snow support, it's a little bit too easy to facilitate that boost. And most of the tier can't even withstand a hit with the help of Terra because it's a belly drum sweeper. It's very, very strong. So like Hariyama, which I guess you could draw the distinction to here, right? Because look at it outside of snow for this even. Hariyama still got priority. But it's very weak priority. Even at +6, there were plenty of offensive mons that would tank the belly drum because the belly drum boosted bullet punch because they'd resist it. And then they'd eat some super effective hit to the face. Hariyama would. I'm getting all over the place, but keep in mind. Just follow me. They eat the bullet punch, and then they just chunk Hariyama and kill it. That's kind of how I felt with Satitan outside of snow, but you put it under snow, and it just kind of fixes all the problems. And the difference is snow as a whole isn't broken. So that's why I voted for ban Satitan. But then you look at Drednaw, where we have a lot of the same things at play here. Drednaw Derain was very, very, very broken. Like, this was not up for debate in my mind. I thought Drednaw with rain support was just very silly. And no matter what, it was made broken. Liquidation calcs just kind of were dumb. You already had a ton of speed as well with Swift Swim, so if you wanted, you could get more bulk on Drednaw under rain. Because obviously you're going to Shell Smash still. You don't need max speed. Obviously, if you're outside of the weather, sure, but okay, I Shell Smash, I still get ×2 speed. Most things aren't outspeeding me anymore. I'm going to have plenty of range to do what I need to do. And now with a whole bunch of HP invest, you don't actually kill me. And again, the whole thing of Terra Ground conveniently is this thing's best Terra. I take away a lot of your offensive counterplay too, through like maybe Prankster T-Wave stuff from Thunderous and Klefki. Like, you can't even rely on that. So, Drednaw kind of just, again, we talk about a mon that under weather was just very, very, very silly. I think the thing is, with Drednaw, is when I used it outside of the weather, it felt genuinely useless half the time. I mean, I don't know, and again, maybe it's because I wasn't using it effectively. I might have not been forcing the issue enough with Dread, because there were a couple instances where I felt I wanted to try and pick a mon off with an attack. I had like a screen up in front of me, so I was like, okay, I'll pick this off with an attack. Their Revenge Killer I could Terra versus and then just beat anyway, so it doesn't matter. And I get rid of this, I don't have to worry about maybe it statusing me as I set up. And then I just wouldn't kill anything. It was like, I remember specifically I had a Quillfish that was at like 63%, so I'm like, okay, I'll just Earthquake this and it'll die. And then it lived very easily and got an immediate Bar Barrage poison, and it felt very stupid at the time, because I'm just like, okay, I guess I was supposed to set up and just try and win. But it felt like that played out quite a lot, where Drednaw would either take way too much damage trying to set up, and at best would get 1 KO, or I would just not really get a good chance to set up, because Drednaw is very similar to Cloyster. It has no special bulk at all. The mon is very, very fragile, so a lot of these special walls particularly, you look at things like Sylveon, you try to set up on them, it just doesn't work, because they're too strong. Like, even these neutral attacks that aren't necessarily very, very strong end up doing so much to you because you don't have the bulk to take the dang hit. So, I looked at Drednaw as, I think it's actually okay in the tier, because rain is so clearly the issue. I mean, you even look at it, we unanimously banned Politoed. Drednaw under rain, I felt very confident about voting ban. Liquidation, one-shots, just about everything. Y'all remember, Joe and I, if you watched our Bastiodon video we did on his channel, I recommend you go watch it. It was a very fun video. If you watched it, though, you'll see there was a Drednaw that liquidated our Bastiodon when we Terra'd under rain. And it did like 94 or something. And Bastiodon has again, that's a mod with one of the highest defense stats in the game. We're not weak to it anymore. We almost got one shot. So, you know, the mod's very, very strong and comes back again. You get to have some extra HP. So you fix up some of the issues of maybe setup being a little bit difficult. And liquidation becomes just very, very easy to spam because we don't have anything that can freely pivot in on it and just say, okay, now what? Because your water immunities are things like Lapras, Toxicroak, and Tatsugiri, none of which are very good in this metagame. So, stalling up the rain turns are very hard. Especially because, okay, maybe you're bringing in a resist. Stone Edge is going to mess you up. So it's never really that simple. It's a very, very difficult one to play around. And Rain exacerbates that to such a disgusting degree that I voted to not ban it purely off of, I think Rain was what broke it. And we talk about that now because Rain, yeah, we banned Politoed. Some of y'all might not or some of y'all may ask, why did we ban Politoed instead of Drizzle? Well, our wonderful tiering admin has decided we are not allowed to ban things like abilities unless there's multiple users of the ability. So, you know, Pelipper Rain, I guess, would maybe be balanced in you, despite Pelipper being better in every way, in every regard. Anyhow. I hate politics on Smogon. Why? Let me ban things that are very no one. Why am I having to ban a stupid frog, man? We all know Pelipper would be broken. We know Kyogre would be broken. Why are we banning this mod instead of the ability? Anyhow, we banned up Politoed because Rain, way too simple. And I think a lot of this, again, it comes down to there not being good water immunities in the tier. So, mons like Floatzel, mons like, I mean, we could talk about Drednaw even here. Mons like Inteleon. These are some of the best water-type attackers under Rain. And yeah, they were very, very ridiculous with the support of Politoed, because something like Inteleon, especially, or Floatzel. But I want to focus on Inteleon because this one's the silliest. You're looking at a mon that right now is running that sniper set quite a lot. Not even with Scopelands, just throw specs on it anyway. And you're chilling. But you just spam out these snipe shots. Now they're boosted a lot no matter what. You don't even have to care about the crit. But those crits now are one-shotting things like Snorlax. Like, the move already was doing over 60 to Snorlax. Now it has a rain boost, so you get rocks up. Goodbye. AV Glober, goodbye. It's just very, very unserious. Very unserious archetype. Because it enables so many things. You even remember the Floatzel video that Joey and I did. And I'm going to even talk about Overquill during any of this too, which is actually what a lot of people thought was maybe the best Rain Sweeper. This is a very similar function, of course, to Hisuian Quill. Y'all know why. Which Joey and I had a lot of success using in previous metagames too. Overquill, better because it's stronger. And the mon plays out the exact same way. You Terra Water, you beat down all the ground types. And that's really the only kind of thing you're worried about checking you otherwise. I mean, what else is switching it on Crunch Gunk Shot? Nothing really. So, you had this combo of like Overquill plus one of Inteleon or Floatzel. That generally just opened up the game for your Overquill to dominate everything. And you still have to play around things like Specs Tornadus or Specs Thunders or Nasty Plot on either of those, which can do very, very similar things. They don't even have to care about running some obscure coverage move anymore, because they just run Weather Ball. They get a free 100 power move to use during your weather. Very easy to make progress with these mons. And then defensively, I mean, the team had things like Politoed, even Klefki potentially with Rain Dance on it, so you had another setter, because, you know, it's nice to not have to rely on entirely Politoed to get your Rain going. And Keys offered some nice things too, giving you hazards, which otherwise are maybe hard to fit unless you're on Scarflagon with Stealth Rock. So, it was pretty good. And, yeah, Scarflagon even often was what glued these Rain teams together, because it gave you, especially if you ran like Floatzel instead of Inteleon, it gave, or even, you know, over Drednaw, because that was what was fighting for that water type slot. Scarflagon gave you speed outside of your weather guaranteed, and was just very, very consistent at giving you something that was able to hold a lot of other offenses in check as well, especially if you ran into like opposing weather. You could have like first impression, you could have Scarf Flag on, just a lot of niceness in that one slot, and it gave you an electric immunity too, which teams you generally want, so you don't let people volt switch. And now we get to Cloyster as our last little demon, and y'all will remember the first PS Live we did of the DLC 2 meta, where Cloyster just consistently won, like, every game I needed it to. And if it lost a game, it was because something truly devious happened. Looking at you, Swagger Mirror Herb Tornadus. How dare you? But this mon literally Terra Ground, Drill Run, fixed any issue I ever could have had with this mon. Because, okay, Icicle Spear Rock Blaster to 2 attacking moves that you have. And then you need 1 more attack in that set, unless you wanted to run like a utility move, which, I don't think there's really any need to do that. And so we get Drill Run, because, okay, I have coverage for steel types now. I have coverage for something like a Quillfish, even. Duraludon, dead. Raja, dead. What other steel types do we even have this year? Registeel, dead. All these mons got popped by it. And, conveniently too, again, we Terra Ground, so haha, you have a Klefki with T-Wave? Nope. You have a Thundurus with T-Wave? Nope. Oh, you have a Pokemon choice locked into Volt Switch? Oh, free setup. Nice. And this idea of free setup also manifested a lot, and I'll reference the video we did, through just defensively tearing with Terra Ground. Like, that's the really annoying thing about it. Cloyster's Terra was both offensive and defensive, because what we were trying to do was Terrastalize and not die. But also now I have a really strong third stab attack. So like Terrakion could lock into close combat. Or CC, you know, either one. Or Stone Edge, yes, close combat or CC. So it locks into Stone Edge, this happened a lot. And I just Terra Ground and now it's a free setup. Something like Flygon, obviously it doesn't have a super effective move, but if it locked into Stone Edge, you know, not a stab super effective move, same deal. So I'm like, Flamigo, you want to lock into CC? Okay, I'll Terra Ground, I'll live your CC, I'll Shell Smash, and I'll beat your team within an inch of its life. Oh, Poros? You think? Oh, you're going to Poros and you're gonna CC me? Oh, I Shell Smashed. I Terra Ground. I Shell Smash. Now I Drill Run and kill you. Like, this happened all too commonly, all too easily, and you know, Mon also benefited from snow. Same deal as Satitan, where you get that defense boost from the weather. You could have Aurora Veil, and then you might not even need to Terra with it to do all the work in the world. So, very versatile option, very, very broken option, very, very glad that this mon is banned. And yeah, this is our first slate. Now, if we want to talk about mons that might make the slate for next time, honestly, ignore the Meganium up here. This is not important right now, don't worry. In due time, you will understand. But mons that we've been talking about, maybe voting on. Chandelure has gotten a couple mentions, just because Specs is kind of uncheckable outside of getting every switch right, and Scarf is still super, super strong. So that's been one that we've talked about a little bit, whereas other ones, because we've got more mons that we've mentioned. Where's the next? Oricorio Pom Pom will probably always get some talk, although I've not seen much of this at all so far in the meta, so probably not this slate. Scrafty and Snorlax and Glowbro, all three of those. Some bulky setup options that have already drawn the ire of people in Council, because they're very hard to take out with Terra. And Glowbro, of course, with quick draw, quick claw stuff, you often just win games through cheesing your opponent. I mean, when I was using the Satitan team eternally past me, he could attest to this. Glowbro was often the one doing like all the work, which is very, very funny. Inteleon, I noticed I skipped him. Inteleon's also going to probably get voted on once again. Specs with the crit stuff is still very, very silly. Very, very consistent at putting in a whole lot of work. Maybe without Rain, it isn't as broken now. But we'll see. And I think there's one more at Thundurus. Thundurus will probably get voted on as well, because Nasty Plot's kind of disgusting. Utility sets are just really, really good. I don't think Thundurus will be banned, but I do think it's maybe the best mon in the tier. And I say best mon in terms of like, there are mons that are more offensively threatening than Thundurus. Like I'd say Inteleon is, for example, right? But I think Thundurus does the most, fits on like almost any team you need it to. And it's just very consistent when you try to use it. So, Maybe it'll get banned, maybe it won't, but it's been a very cool addition to the tier. And of course, like we said at the beginning of the video, Terrakion will get voted on once again because, well, a lot of council thinks that these things we banned were kind of holding it back anyway. So maybe Terrakion over the next few days looks really stupid and we want to ban it. But also just because it had 4 ban votes, it's not bad to revisit it and just see in case, okay, more of y'all now think it's ban worthy or fewer y'all, etc. But that's going to be it for today's upload. Hope you all enjoyed. Of course, like I said at the beginning, subscribe if you're not already subscribed. You watched me for 25 minutes and 25 seconds. Must mean you like the content. Love my brother out. Let's hit 10K by the end of the year. Let's hit 50K by the end of the year. Why not? Who says we can't hit 50K by the end of the year? I need your names. Hope you all have a wonderful day, though. I'll catch you next time. Peace.